At the time of me writing this script on the 13th of February, Overwatch was released 995 days ago. Since October of 2018, I've been making a list of good, bad, and ugly points about the game that I love, but I've decided to wait until around the 1000th day of the game's release to post this video, as around October a lot of videos came out about the topic, and I honestly just really hope things would have changed between now and then. Now that the significant date has passed though, and with all of the recent drama in Activision Blizzard with the layoffs and the new CFO, I thought now would be a really appropriate time to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of Overwatch 1000 days after its release. I know that I'm going to be breaking the usual order of the saying by starting with the bad, but I've decided that the video would be better structured by finishing on a positive note rather than a negative one. Hopefully it'll allow those of you that stick through the whole video to have a better reflection on the topic, because I really want the last thing that you recall from this video, if anything, to be a positive thing rather than a negative one. One of the first issues I want to talk about is one that's been in the game for most of its lifetime and has caused more issues in a domino effect as a result. The PTR, or Public Test Region, was released a few months after the game did and allowed players to test the competitive mode before it was put to the live servers to give feedback and report bugs. Since then, the PTR has been used to showcase new features, balance changes, and heroes being put into Overwatch before their official launch, with the aim of being players can test these new things and provide feedback or report bugs. This is a great premise, and tons of other games do this really well, but with the amount of bugs and broken things that get reported on the forums and go live anyway, I really gotta ask, what is the point of the PTR server nowadays? Things like Ironclad Bastion had a massive community outcry when it was on the PTR, and it was still pushed to live anyway, and it was massively broken until Bastion was hotfixed. There's been multiple times where game-breaking bugs that stop players loading into games and have caused competitive penalties have made it to live, and I mean heck, even a bug where the final defenders spawned for Watchpoint Gibraltar didn't exist, and players simply spawned and fell through the map's floor, were put onto live servers without being patched out of the game. There have been countless game-breaking bugs and crashes that I could go on about, where the vast majority of them appear and get reported on the PTR servers and then hit live anyway before they get patched. The PTR currently feels like a glorified platform for content creators to show what's fresh and new that's coming to the game before it's released, rather than one to actually test what's coming to the game and what's about to be dropped to all players on all platforms. I personally think that the PTR can be used so much better if players were actually given an incentive to play on it, for example giving rewards to players on their live actual accounts for playing in the PTR or for reporting bugs and suggesting feedback. The reason I started talking about the PTR as the first bad point for Overwatch is that it acted as a great springboard for other bad things currently persisting within the game. I definitely think one of the largest things that burn out players and annoy the crap out of the competitive player base is the rate with which the game receives balance patches. Compared to games I've played in the past, such as League of Legends, where balance patches occur every 2 weeks, Overwatch seems extremely slow to create any meaningful change in the balance of the game's meta. In League, many of these fortnightly experimental changes get reverted and rolled back with players that tested on the testing environment, but you can expect at least every 2 weeks there is new content coming to the game along with some balance changes. With Overwatch, metas like the Moth meta went almost 6 months before being patched out of effectiveness, and Goats has gone at least 4 or 5 months and is now only finally waning in popularity with the nerfs to Armor, Brigitte, and Diva, along with the buffs to Reaper. Other bad things that generally a lot of people in the player base don't enjoy and that I thought would be good to brush over are decay and the still prevalent toxicity within the game. Decay was introduced in Season 2 to ensure players at the top end of the rank ladder actively played to keep their spot at the top, and whilst it's a great feature for top 500 and Grandmaster players where individual SR numbers matter to keep things competitive, for those in low GM, Masters, even Diamond, decay can make playing the game feel like a chore, and this feels worse when you're forced to play with the current metagame being so unenjoyable for most of the player base. I completely understand why decay is in the game and I don't debate that, but with decay having absolutely no impact on your actual MMR and only resulting in a cosmetic change to your icon and your SR, it feels like a system that promotes unhappiness amongst higher bracketed players, and I really personally don't believe it should exist outside of Grandmaster, where small amounts of SR mean a greater difference in skill level. The competitive system as a whole harbours a lot of toxicity in general, and whilst I think I could dedicate a whole video discussing possible solutions, I think a greater emphasis should be placed on the endorsement system, as very soon after its release it became useless and pretty much forgotten. The only people I see with an endorsement level of 1 or 0 are fresh accounts or those that have been chat banned already, and there are plenty of toxic or uncooperative players that have endorsement level of 2 or even 3. It was a great idea for a feature, that sadly means little now, and I think making endorsement levels reset with each competitive season, or making it harder to gain and lose levels but provide greater rewards, should be added for those as a benefit for people with 4 or 5 levels of endorsement. Maybe a high endorsement level could give players more avoid slots. I don't know, just something should be done to make it more incentivized to be a good player and provide endorsements to others. Giving competitive points or currency depending on your endorsement level would be a good incentive to maintain a high level, as you're currently only rewarded 1 to 5 loot boxes that you're probably going to only get duplicates from anyway. Moving on to what I feel are the worst and most lacking things in the game, the ugly still within Overwatch isn't something that I think breaks the game or ruins it, but makes the whole experience of playing and practicing Overwatch a whole lot more frustrating. As a competitive game with a tier 1 scene that has already eclipsed $1 billion in revenue, the Overwatch League pushes the game as a competitive esport to a massive audience. The Overwatch League has crazy higher value sponsorships such as Coca-Cola, Toyota, ESPN, Disney, and it really doesn't seem to make sense that for such a broadcasted and advertised game, the amount of competitive staple features that aren't present within Overwatch that other competitive games have had for many years are staggering. Things such as a match history, a proper scoreboard, a replay system, or even just an in-depth training range are all missing from the game and are present in many esports titles such as Dota, Smite, CSGO, League of Legends, and even newer titles like Fortnite. For players looking to improve at the game, or content creators like me looking to make content about Overwatch, a replay system is an absolute godsend, and it's almost criminal seeing Fortnite receive an in-depth replay system before Overwatch has. I'm personally really annoyed over that, and I really want to see a replay system in this game at some point soon. Another competitive issue that a lot of players have is the pointlessness of seasons. I don't think an MMR reset or other things like that a lot of players are calling for is the solution to any of the problems that competitive has right now, but I do think that there needs to be changes made. Many players have provided great ideas or recommendations, and I don't want to step on their parade, and I don't want to keep making comparisons to League of Legends, so I'm going to avoid giving my own thoughts in this section. Moving away from the competitive side of the game and bringing more attention to the casual player base, as they do make up the majority of Overwatch players nowadays, the absolute biggest thing that is killing the game for everyone currently with Overwatch isn't so much the game balance changes or the competitive scene, but the lack of fresh content being put into the game. Other than events like the Bastet and Nano Cola challenges or Uprising and Retribution, basically all of the seasonal events for Overwatch have been the same recycled one from launch, except for a couple of added extra skins or maybe a new map in nighttime. At this point in Overwatch's life cycle, there aren't as many new and fresh players buying the game for the first time, and it's up to Blizzard to retain their current, long-standing players with fresh content that would make them actually want to keep playing the game long-term, rather than playing Apex, Fortnite, or the whole series of other competing games out there right now. I'm really personally hoping that this big issue gets resolved through 2019, and whilst Activision has said that they are increasing the development team size around 20% this year to create more content within their current IPs, similar promises have been made last year, and we're still in the same position without much change. Time will have to tell. I want to remain optimistic, but I don't know yet. Now that I've got all the negativity and the complaining out of the way, I want to go through the good that is still within Overwatch, what keeps me playing and keeps a lot of the community together. Making a video badgering on the game that I mostly enjoy playing isn't really fair, so I do want to highlight some of the great things about Overwatch that I still love. Continuing with my last point about slow release cycles, I did want to praise Overwatch and Blizzard in general for one of the best things it's maintained throughout its 3-year life cycle, being the quality of the design put into all of the content in the game. While there are occasionally some bugs and some issues and some things don't come out all balanced, all of the content that has been added to the game is of high quality. All of the post-launch heroes, maps and features have that signature level of Blizzard polish that we've come to expect. Take a look at Paris, for example. It is a beautifully designed map and includes a ton of attention to detail and really reflects the location of Paris, France. Events like Retribution and Uprising are fun, provided you haven't already played them to death, and are again designed very nicely and expand the lore of the Overwatch universe. This is probably the general community consensus, considering a lot of the reactions to the new content within the game is pretty positive. Another great thing about Overwatch that I think it deserves a lot of praise is their business model, especially considering Activision's usual practices with predatory microtransactions. All Overwatch heroes are free and available for a level 1 player just starting out, and there's no extra fees for buying heroes, maps, or additional content other than the initial price you pay for the game itself. All add-on content comes for free and can be unlocked by anyone without spending extra money. I guess with the exception of the Overwatch League skins, I know there are tiny little exceptions. With the amount of games filled with microtransactions, season passes, battle passes, and other monetized features, even though you have to pay for the game itself, Overwatch has done really well for its fans, even though a lot more aggressive monetization could have been added to the game. Additionally, whilst it isn't for everyone, the Overwatch League is one of the biggest and most expansive esports scenes currently available, and it's only in its second year with an incredible production value that brings the whole Overwatch competitive scene together, even if the resources invested into Overwatch League could have probably been invested better into the game itself. The final thing I do want to say that it's great about Overwatch 1,000 days after its release is that there is a large, involved and passionate community that wants to keep enjoying the game. People of all ages, ethnic groups and orientations are part of the Overwatch community, and it's probably the most diverse community I've seen for a game yet, and that's wonderful. Even whilst the game grows stale for many, people still create content, play together and share information, hoping for Blizzard to pick up some slack and breathe some fresh life into the game again. Please, I beg. I think 2019 is going to be the year that makes or breaks Overwatch, and whilst I've heard plenty about how Activision is dedicating more developer resources this year, I've heard plenty of similar things last year, and nothing's really changed. I want the game to succeed because I don't think it's one I could ever quit. I've been playing tons of other games right now, such as Apex Legends, Black Desert Online, and even Minecraft with my subscribers in my Discord, as Overwatch hasn't really been that fun recently, but I don't think I could ever quit the game as there's nothing quite out there to replace it. I want to thank everyone that's made it to this point of the video and watched all the way through. I really do appreciate that. If you've enjoyed what you've just watched and just want to support me even more than you currently have, please consider subscribing. I've looked at the analytics of my videos and only 15% of my viewers are actually subscribed to my channel, so if you enjoy high quality content, well edited content for the games that I enjoy playing, then stick around because I hope you will enjoy whatever I do make. Thanks once again to my lovely Patreon supporters who get to be part of the video creation process and see behind the scenes content. Best of luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.